Hi, this is Nick with the Wisconsin National Guard Child and Youth Program. For this weekend's Wild Weekend adventure, the team and I would like to challenge you to go outside, connect with your family, get some fresh air, and see what you can see. In the following video, the team and I went to a local space, hiked around, and found a lot of different wildlife. We found tracks and other signs of these fauna in your local area. So click below, subscribe for more videos, and let us know what you find on your hike in the comments below. If you think you're in a space with a lot of animals, move like an animal, and you more than likely will get to see said animals. Alright, so we're gonna travel really quietly, softly. You can see one of our volunteers, Jared here, AK Fish. Look at the way he's walking. He's going heel toe. And he's stopping every so often. That's how animals move through the wild. Is they'll take a few steps, they'll stop, they'll look and kind of expand their surroundings. And the reason we're currently doing this is because we spooked up a deer on our trail and we can hear it. And so what he's kind of doing is he's trying to see if he can see it. You can kind of hear the deer move back through there. It's a squirrel. So, alright.
Okay, so this right here is what I call a squirrel hole. So if you guys ever watch squirrels in like your backyard or something, in the fall they run around and bury nuts everywhere. And so this is where a squirrel buried a nut, and as you can see, he's dug it back up again. This one's a little old. The dirt that's been dug up is very dry and flaky. So this is where a squirrel buried his nut and then came back the next spring and found it.
When you're out hiking, springtime and winter are some of the most pristine times to go and track wildlife. And that's because you got perfect conditions for them to leave prints. Just this segment, I see a lot of traffic. Animals aren't dumb. They're going to maneuver through man-made trails. They like to move with ease. So on this trail alone, we do see domestic dog, which we've shown bigger prints. See a lot of human tracks. So if you're out there tracking, be mindful of what's below your feet. Don't tromp. As we know, this is a canine because typically a canine is going to look a lot like your hand line. You'll see their front 4 toes, which canines have 4 toes, and then you'll see their rear pad here. So this canine track is going that direction. And this is probably their rear paw print. And because in most canines, the rear paw is actually smaller than their front paw. This is a wild canine, probably a fox or coyote based on the size. I'd actually go probably fox, but it does look kind of like a heavy print, but it's a good X. That's the easiest way to decipher between a domestic canine and a wild canine is the adamant X.
Right here in the middle, we have what is most definitely a fox track. You can tell this is a lot more rounded than like a domestic dog like this would be. This is a much more triangular shape. You have this nice X in the middle, and then from the size of it, it's definitely a fox because it's a very small track. And then if you look right next to it, right here, we have what is probably either a raccoon or a possum track. And you can see most definitely the little fingers coming off of the
Animals will spread their hands out or their paws out when they travel through sticky, snowy, or muddy situations. So here you can see the white-tailed deer, but you can see here that which way the animal was traveling based on the imprint and knowing the hooves is that they're going to come forward and they're going to dig deeper. So the deeper the impression is typically going to be the way they come out. And deer, when they walk on soft ground, so snow or in mud like this, also we are on a deer trail, which is easy to see. You can see tracks all the way up, as they actually spread out their feet as much as they can. So they'll spread their 2 toes out to give themselves a wider print. But they weren't moving in a fast pace, too fast anyways, because you can start to see its gaits right here. But something to take a look out when you go out in nature and go out hiking this weekend is look for animal tracks and see what you can see and let us know. To our right, here's a dead deer. As we investigate this, we are keeping our distance from it. This is probably, without opening up this jaw and looking, my guess is this is a yearling or just above a yearling based on its pure size. But there's no bloating in the stomach or anything, and I don't smell it, and you can see there's no bugs on it yet, so there's not decomposing. From what we can investigate without getting too close, this looks like a natural death. You never quite know what you're going to find out here. If you look right in through here and through here, this bone has been gnawed on by some kind of animal. My assumption based on size and knowing where we're at, this is some part of a deer. All right, so what we found is another deer bone. Similar to the other one, you look at the same style. They've been here for a while. Something to note now is that we are on public hunting land. Obviously, you would want to take safety precautions. My guess is this part of this bone that we see here is their shin bone.
So what we have right here is a blue jay feather. You have this white spot on the tip, so that shows you that it's definitely a blue jay. This is a really good way. Dropped feathers, droppings, pieces of hair is a really good way to see what kind of fauna you have within the ecosystem that you're traveling through.
So what you see in front of you there is Wisconsin state bird known as the robin, and you'll notice a robin based on its chest. So most of the upper body is going to be gray, but you'll see an orange breasted chest. The brighter the chest, you'll know this gender of the animal. That is probably a female, because of the more subdued orange breast. The brighter the stomach is on a bird, or even the brighter the feathers are on a bird, it's going to tell you it's a male. These are a great sign that spring is here in Wisconsin. So down here what we see is a mixture of a bunch of different flora, which is your marshland and stuff, but it's right off the banks of this water, and those are downed or under feathers of geese.
So right here what we have is a turkey track. So you can see it's very distinctive because any bird track that you'll see has very distinctive points for the 3 toes. And then they typically, let me move this stick out of the way, typically will have a point on the back that's the spur. So bird tracks are very distinctive from any other animal tracks because they have that nice 3-toed look.
Is it that it is a mallard based on the green head, and then some of the featherings and stuff that the mallards and wood ducks are very similar, and they're both pretty native to this area in southern Wisconsin. But based on the types of feathers and the way his body type is, we're gonna go with establishing that that is a male mallard duck known as a drake.
His name is Quackers.
So when you're out there hiking and you come across signs like this is signs of other wildlife that are out here with us. But I know it's dead, it's hollow, you can hear it, but this, if you guessed it, these holes were made by our friends the woodpecker, and more than likely based on the size of some of these lower holes and some of the farther ones up there, this is a pileated woodpecker, so one of those big redhead, think of Woody the woodpecker, big red-headed woodpeckers. And what they're doing here is not nesting, but actually trying to look for insects that are inside the tree that are actually killing the tree. And so this is them harvesting food. So if you look closely down here in the pond, what you can start to see, all those little black dots that are on that rock, are Wisconsin's native and favorite creatures, the mosquito. But they are going to start to hatch here, and you're always going to be able to find mosquito larvae as well as mosquito nests in what we call stagnant or still water. And so keep your eye out when you're out and about on your hikes this weekend or whenever you're out with your family. Take a look at some of those still waterways and see if you can start to see mosquito larvae. So this is something you're not going to see every day. It's really neat. We're still on that newly found trail, and you can see they kind of clear-cutted, but because we're in sapping season, they came in and cut what looks to be a maple, and all these insects are coming in to feed on what's left of that sap. First, a demonstration of fresh beaver. So what they'll do is when they're making their homes out here, they'll come in and they'll, ooh, wow, that's really wet. But look how fresh and white that wood is. And so what they'll do is they'll scrape this down and they'll fall it. And because you'll see this right around like still waterways, is they're gonna try to dam up, either make a beaver dam or a beaver lodge. So we'll keep our eyes open to see if we see any other signs of the beaver out here. And the other thing you want to look for is where are they coming in and out of the water, because these are animals that live in the water. And often you'll see beavers or waddlers. So they waddle back and forth, a lot of wildlife. You got gallopers, which are your typical dog or deer. Then you have bounders, which are like your squirrels and your rabbits that go like this, and their big hind legs will come over and they'll bound. And then you got skunks and porcupine and beavers, kind of our portly fellow wildlife that waddle, kind of like I do when I walk, because I'm a portly fellow myself. So you'll waddle, but they have those big tails that you're going to want to see because they'll drag them as a scent marker, like we talked on a different segment, is animals are leaving their scents and their markings everywhere they go. So they probably drop their tail some in here and like it's dragging, saying, hey, this is us, this is our territory, back off.
Earlier, right behind us, there's a fresh cut. So a fresh cut stump from a beaver. And then, so that made me think, like, well, we're right next to this creek here, so they got to be pulling it into the creek somewhere. So I started looking, and then along this bank, you can see how this bank out here is a lot steeper, and it's a very steep drop off, so beaver aren't going to use that. So then I came down to this point where it shallows out a little bit, and there's a muddy section, and then right here, as you can see, right down in here, it's all this grass is very beat down and pushed into the water. So this is probably where the beaver are coming in, and even you can see some like faint imprints of like paw prints and stuff. So this is probably where they were dragging that tree down out and into the creek to set up their house.
So what we have right there is raccoon scat, and next to it you can see the raccoon print.
Starts with an S and ends with the T. It comes out of you and it comes out of me. I know what you're thinking and it could be called that, but let's be scientific and call it scat.
Thanks for watching this week's video on nature hiking and the different fauna and animals you can find in your area. Again, subscribe for future videos.